Mile, it is fantastic to be here with you at the Landmark Hotel. It's no Big Four Tuggerah Lakes though, is it?
Yeah, far cry, isn't it? Long, long way away.
Yeah. Do you ever miss home?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when you start to speak about all the lovely environment back home and everyone that's there, that you sort of course, you can't help but miss it. You keep telling people what a lovely place it is, and the first question you get back from people living over here particularly is, why are you still here? So, from that point of view, it's it's a gentle reminder.
Yeah. And what do you say when you answer that question?
Well, I'm here with family for work. That's just the way that it's sort of panned out, and that's what's happening at this point in time. That's not to ever rule it out, but for the time being, it's the way it is.
Yeah. Why does everyone think from the UK that every Australian that's here is on a Katiki tour?
I'm not sure that's the same with me, but well, I guess, I think it's because it is so far away. Everyone wants to make the most of every time you come over here, and a lot of that means enjoying yourself. A lot of it means when you're, out of uni, or, you're single and you're going out looking for a good time. So from that side of things, everyone that does come over here, I think people appreciate that it's been a big journey. It's been a long journey, and, people sometimes just want to let their hair down, and what more, there is such a lovely atmosphere going on in this country as well. So from that side of things, I can see why, and you're close to so many other places as well.
Absolutely. And one man that I think of who went on an absolutely incredible journey was Dylan Tombides. What are your memories of Dylan? And did you actually meet him?
No, I think the first memory that comes to mind was he came to a Socceroo camp with Jim at the time. I believe the camp was in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and I can't remember. Like I said, I've had this conversation a couple of times, I think, with the family, and I must have just been going about my business, but again, it was very brief, and it was more admiring from afar and seeing sort of what was going on and how it was going on, and it's now then since probably his passing and being involved in the charity, having those conversations with not only his family and friends, but a lot of other people as well who are able to sort of give you a bit more of an insight into actually probably how special he was. And that's, hearing it sort of afterwards is still something that's, pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice something special about Dylan when he was at that training camp? It was at Fulham. No?
Oh, I might have got the wrong one then. So again, that just goes to show my memory. So yeah, I think it's more around the fact that being there at that time when you're that young, it's obviously someone thought of in high regard, to be able to get that experience, and it speaks volumes of what he did and what he was about.
Mm-hmm. So right, and it's kind of fate in a way that drew you towards the charity, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Obviously, at the time, it was, we well aware of what had happened and sort of how, and during that time, it was obviously a coincidental thing that I played against West Ham that weekend, and it was made it sort of an obligation of mine to go and speak to the family afterwards, after the game, and something that I'm very, very grateful for getting that opportunity. And then from that point on, it's just been, as whatever I can help to do, as you do. And I've been in touch, and we've got to this point now, and so many other things along the way as well.
How was it going into that game before West Ham played Palace? Because the outpouring of emotion from everyone connected with Dylan, from the Australian football community, was enormous. I can't imagine going into the game and playing thinking, wow, I've got Dylan riding with me here in a way.
Yeah, obviously we knew the magnitude of what had just happened, and none more so probably the moment when Taylor and Jim came out on the field, and everyone's around the centre circle, and it probably hits you more than ever then. Again, yeah, emotional, absolutely. You're trying to stay focused as best as you can. I know it's, you're trying to, I wouldn't say suppress that, but it's almost right. You need to understand that this has happened, and what you're feeling now is right, and you've also got to try and keep your concentration on the game. And I think the way that the game was played that day, I think everything around the whole day, the whole atmosphere was spot on, and that's what that's probably the most fitting thing about it. And then after the game, you have your moment and you go and speak to the family, and you, like I said, you offer every single bit of condolence that you have, meeting these people for the first time, and knowing that it's coming from a place of sincerity, and the game's already behind you. It's moving on to actually what's real in the moment, and that's sort of probably the best way I can sum it up.
Even Sam Allardyce said before that game that he realised that life and family are bigger than football. Was that the moment that struck you that, this game is not just everything, there's more important things?
Absolutely. I probably realised that before that as well, but in terms of, and I think from that side of things, it's been away from Australia that obviously brings that awareness a little bit closer. But when you have something like this that isn't Australian, that sort of, it hits you even hard, like it hits you straight in the face. And like I said, that was sort of the experience of that moment. And then it takes you to, being there afterwards and supporting during what is and what has been some very difficult moments. None other than the service for Dylan held by West Ham, and going to that and being a part of that and feeling it all as well. So,
and the funeral would have been so tough. And what has just really touched my heart is how strong Jim and Tracy have been. Is that what shook you as well and empowered you, was seeing how well they've tried to galvanise their lives through the charity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been some moments when it's something. It's an unimaginable thing. It's one of those things that, as a parent, now you don't want to think about. The fact that they've had to go through it, and not only them, Taylor as well, having lost an older brother, older sibling. It's it's heartbreaking, and I think they had to sort of galvanise each other, and they had a support network, friends and family around them, and I think with myself and my own family, it's as much support as we can possibly give, and we've definitely had those moments where we've sort of galvanised together and spent some good times together, but it hasn't always been smiles and stuff all the time, as you can imagine, but that's okay. That's part of helping with that process.
Yeah, and in a way, I'm sure you've been a big brother to Taylor. How's your relationship been in the last 8 years?
Yeah, listen, Taylor's obviously someone who's very passionate about football as well. So I guess having that understanding and common ground, but not only that, it's been nice to see Taylor grow in the subsequent years and see him mature, and it's been something that we've sort of see happening in front of us, which has been really, really pleasing. He's obviously now got his coaching cap on, and I know he's still playing.
He's almost got that A license.
So he's obviously going down that route, and like I said, of any sort of help or advice along the way, we have those conversations when we do meet up around how's it all going and stuff like that. But again, it's more just around, listen, we've got to, I'm here if you need, and if we need to, like I said, this was done through Taylor as well. So as soon as he said, listen, I've got someone coming from Australia to get some content, it's like, well, yep, okay, where do you need me, what time? And coincidentally, it obviously worked hand in hand with now. So again, it's guidance when it's needed. He knows that, and we're aware of it. We try and see each other obviously as often as possible, but again, circumstances and schedules and stuff like that. But again, every effort is made, that's for sure.
It's a beautiful bromance, I have to say.
All right.
How do you think you grew as a person, though, during your football career? Because you talk about Taylor, how he's matured and he's grown so much in the last couple of years. But when you think back and you go, oh, was there a couple of moments and you go, oh, that really changed me as a footballer and as a person?
I think obviously what you've experienced in football is going to be different across the board. Taylor's is different to mine. Every player will have their own journey. Dylan's was different to Taylor's. So again, everyone's got their own journey. I think it's understanding that and that's okay. At the end of the day, it's those experiences along the way is what help you to grow. At the top of my head, I moved away when I was 18, on my own. Very, very difficult. But I knew when I got back to Australia from there and got another opportunity, I looked at it differently. I made sure that I tried to do everything I can to make that journey last as long as it possibly could. Because at the time, I always felt that playing abroad would give me a better opportunity to succeed in potentially playing for Australia, for your national team, to go to World Cups, etc., etc. But it's those moments where you realise, right, okay, that's what helps you. But again, there's a whole lot of other things off the field, getting that balance right. And I've had all of that to go through. And again, hopefully been able to pass some of that wisdom on to the likes of Taylor and other players that I've played with, etc.
Because I'm imagining seeing your kids grow up, would you think, oh, I would do something different when I was growing up to have an impact on them?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a good question because obviously the way we've grown up is going to be different. And that's something you have to understand and appreciate. And, my kids' experience is going to be slightly different to mine. But
they weren't having Chavapi rolls at Adenza Park.
Well, if they could, I'm sure they would, because they do love that sort of food. But that's always a treat when we go back home. But I just think it looks different. It's probably having an awareness of that more than anything, and then understanding maybe what you have to do. And again, you're not going to always get it right, but it's making sure that you have the awareness, and then you, like I said, if you can pass on some of that knowledge, or if they're going to pass some knowledge on to you, again, your kids teach you things all the time. So it's having that open-mindedness to understand that as well.
What's the biggest lesson that you try and pass on?
I just think it's about, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy what you're doing, and you've got to be prepared to, you don't say sacrifice because the kids are too young for that, but it's about, if that's what you want to decide to do, just, like I said, give it every effort, give it every opportunity that you can, and let's see. Got any, if you've got things to ask or things to question, and then go and do it, but, do it in the right way.
It's all about learning, I think. And one of the interesting points that I've heard you speak about in a quote, and you said how you never put restrictions on yourself. You always set targets and goals, but I never knew what goals and objectives you're searching for and trying to achieve.
So again, it can be as, it doesn't have to be, it can be certain things. I mean, if you're talking from football sides of things, it's getting a contract, getting a number of games under your belt in the season. Then you can go even further in that and say, well, I don't want to lose my place, or I don't want to, I want to make sure I train every day. It's those little things, those little targets. I think a lot of that drives you forward, giving yourself that little plan, that little objective of what you want to do. Seeking promotion, it's a bigger picture one. It's not going to be able to be done on your own, but how do you help galvanise a group when you're involved in a group that's maybe chasing for promotion or going to qualify for a World Cup? not only on the field. So what else do you have to be doing off the field in order to make that happen? So it's no different now, you know, working on the other side of it, and obviously doing, going down the coaching journey. It's the same sort of thing, setting yourself little targets and objectives around how you potentially want it to look, and how you potentially want to try and shape that.
Do you think your experience fighting relegation, promotion, was the perfect experience to go back to Australia, where we probably weren't going to win the World Cup, but we were going in to challenge and fight and get through to the next group? Was there things that you took out when you were playing at Palace or Aston Villa that you could take back and go, oh, I know how to stamp my authority in the dressing room, I know what to say? Or were you more spontaneous about how you reacted to each group?
It's another good question. I think from my own learning, again, it wasn't probably just with those experiences. It was the whole Socceroos journey, you know, Central Coast journey, Sydney United journey. It was the whole journey, which taught you those things. And it was just more around having an awareness of potentially the situation, and that's okay. And also being prepared to say what you need to say in order to get the job done. And that's done that could be conversations like this, that could be on the training pitch. It doesn't have to be barking and screaming, not at all. But not only that, you've got other players there to support you. So it's how you get the best out of those players as well, that want to support you and want to deliver some of those messages. Because again, if it's coming from one person all the time, it's not necessarily going to be the most effective. So the time with that, in terms of your promotion, your relegations, that whole experience allows you to be able to handle those situations. You wouldn't say spontaneous, but more instinctively, because you're well aware of what's going on and what's at stake. So from that side of things, I'd probably say that.
What were the effective strategies that you took out when you were younger in the Socceroos camp, that you saw other people, leaders in the dressing room, doing, that you thought, oh wow, I'm going to use that later because that might make that 1% or that marginal gain? I
don't necessarily know if it's taking or using, or it's just having an awareness of it. So it's not so much, oh, I need to do it like this, or I want to do it like this. It's because I would have experienced other things throughout that. You know, it's not just around what's happened in football changing rooms or football environment. It's how you've been brought up. What are those experiences like? What have you learnt from that side of things? So it's probably just a combination of everything. And again, my way of doing it would be totally different to just say if your way of doing it or the way you approach something. But I was fortunate enough that a lot of the time it was effective, and I was fortunate enough to play in teams that were successful and able to get themselves out of trouble and able to get themselves clear of relegation zones because of we had some really, really good people in there. I think that's at the forefront, and that's not down to me, that's down to them. But being part of that and supporting that, I think more importantly, rather than saying this is the way it's got to be done, has been, one of the biggest outcomes and one of the most effective, processes that's come out of any success that I've had.
And also it relies on you performing as well to lead the dressing room. When you see a player the stature of Harry Maguire battling through playing and captaincy, if you had 5 minutes with him, what would you try and say to him? Because he's got a hell of a lot of media scrutiny on his captaincy and playing at the moment. Yeah,
listen, obviously, we know that the scrutiny's there. I'm sure he's got his own support networks, support mechanisms, and that's, people are going to experience it differently. Obviously, that scrutiny and that level of scrutiny is intense and probably feels like you can't get away from it at the moment. But again, it's not what my 5 minutes would do. It's how Harry's processing it, and that's up to him. That's going to be how much he's prepared to, look into. He's still a footballer. He's still got to do a job for them. He's still got to. He hasn't got to that point without being a successful footballer. He's got to. You have to go through sometimes that difficult period, but when you come out of that, difficult period, a lot of the time you tend to go on an upward curve, and those moments are the ones you're looking forward to. It's just making sure that consistency of what you're doing is consistent to how you are as a person. That way, if you've gone through that cycle all the time and you're doing the certain same things, if you keep on that consistent way of doing things, it tends to get you out of that sooner rather than later. Regarding advice on how to, that's not what I'm prepared to do. I don't think that's fair on anybody. But he's, I'm sure he's experiencing things that he hasn't experienced before. But again, that would be for his learning journey afterwards. And like I said, he's got to try and navigate that. Probably getting those people around him that are there going to be. There's going to be people that are supporting him, and there'll be people that he's leaning on. That's when you get to see.
I'm sure Harry Maguire has an amazing support network, but still not as big as your support network. Am I right that you would take 80 members of your family to a World Cup? Have you just got Ancestry.com out of every Jedinak?
No, not 80 members at a World Cup. I had 80 members at the Asian Cup final in Sydney, but again, don't forget I'm from Sydney, so 80 members.
Did you bring the dogs?
No. The extended family's pretty big. Anyone that was there that night probably could attest to that. But listen, we had some really good moments. That was one of them, and I mean the World Cups. Yeah, not 80, not 80 by any stretch. Closer to, I don't know, 20, 30 potentially, but not 80.
When you were lifting that Asian Cup, who did you look out across at when?
Well, just the family. Again, I knew where they were sort of sitting, in what direction, and it was a sort of a slight angle towards them and everyone else that was in that stadium, essentially, because they know that people have followed Australian football for a very, very long time. To have that opportunity to do that in front of them, to be able to go through the whole month. I think that the tournament as a whole was a real great spectacle, and it was really pleasing to see. And to be the ones at the end to lift it on home soil was exceptional.
I was going to finish that point by saying, who were you grateful that was there that night?
Oh, I've got everyone. I think that was there from my family. Everybody was there that I wanted to be there, and that was the main thing. So
it's like picking one of your favourite kids. That's that question.
There's no. Everyone that was there, and they wanted to be there, and that was the main thing. And to be able to sort of share that experience with everyone in the stadium at that time, along with my teammates and all the staff, was really, really special.
Do you think sometimes I wish I could have that moment in a bottle?
Yeah, but again, you got those memories. So you've got those memories all the time. Those memories stay with you. You pass those memories on to people, and you tell them. You look back on photos and etc. with the kids particularly, and when they see that, they're like, "Oh, what happened?" Well, then you tell the story again. So,
yeah. And just the photo of you and Ange just lifting the trophy, it was almost a little bit of fate as well that you played in his under 20 side in 2003. What growth did you see in Ange, and do you still have the same principles?
Yeah, I think the principle stuff is very much the same. I think you get that with Ange straight away, which, again, when you're looking at it, having been part of it as a player, but looking at it from the other side, it's fantastic to see. Like I said, it was what probably we needed at that time, and sort of the confidence and the belief he had in every single Australian player was what captivated everybody, and it got to be able to do that with someone at the helm was fantastic. And again, it was perfectly planned for that to happen, giving new crop of players some opportunities and allowing them to sort of flourish within the environment. It's a credit to everybody that was involved at that time, 100%.
How did you notice him change, though, in those 12 years? Because as you've spoken throughout this podcast, everyone has their own journey and different experiences that make them who they are. but what did you pick out now you're an older soul with Ange?
I don't know if it was particularly one thing. I think as anyone on their own journey, they go and learn and experience and how to deal with things. Ange obviously had a lot of success in the A-League as well, which probably taught him things around how he wanted things to happen or what he thought the environment needed, and working back again with more Australian players and at that first team level. And, you know, I think the most important thing was that he didn't change too much in terms of what he was about and his values, and that's probably what I think everybody that had him at that time could appreciate. And the ones who hadn't had anything to do with Ange or hadn't really had an encounter with Ange along the way, they lapped it up, they loved it. So from that point on, it was, like I said, we were all ears, and like I said, just wanting to do the absolute best for him, the country, your family, your friends, each other, as you do when you play for the national team.
When Ange was mostly under the pump during that 2017 period, are the players in the bubble, do you hear the background noise that's impacting the squad, or maybe it's not impacting? Are you just cocooned from it all and just focusing on Ange's way, or how does it work?
I think we as a group of players, you know, we respected the way that things were getting done, and we had seen some success from it. So what was the alternative? You know, we have to keep going. I think everybody made that clear, and that was, not that we had an alternative, but we didn't want an alternative at the moment. Everyone had full faith in what was going on, and we had that internally, regardless of what was noise was being created on the outside. We sort of stuck together as you do, and we were ready to, you say fight until the end, ready to play until the end and see where it gets us. And like I said, ultimately we got what we came for at that time, which was qualify for the World Cup, albeit it was a longer way. But one thing Ange used to say quite often was, well, let's make it a different script then. Let's try and let's make our own script. And that's something that sort of resonated probably in the Asian Cup, and it was no different going through that qualifying tournament. So having been through that Asian Cup, coming out of that then and into this qualification cycle, we knew that, right, this is how it's going to be. It might not always be smooth, but at the end of the day, we had full belief in each other to get the job done.
You would run through a brick wall for him?
I'd run through a brick wall, I'd run through a titanium wall, but I think everybody would have, I guess it wasn't just around, I'm not just saying it's down to Ange, anyone would have done it playing for Australia. That was the expectation. That was the demand put on you, not only by the staff, but by the players as well. And that's something that you have to, that's why you loved every moment of it.
And I think with Ange, just his awareness of the squad, you were picking it out, and it feels hard in Australian football for people to see the abilities and the inherent qualities that individuals have. I think of your story, and you were playing at Denzer Park, and someone at the club let Laurie McKinnon know, and someone seeing something in you, similar to, at the moment, to Christian Volpato at Roma. He got released from two clubs, Wanderers and Sydney FC, but somehow he's in the starting 11 at Roma. Is that down to the quality of understanding in Australia, or how would you try and bring it all together?
I don't know if it's about quality of understanding, because there's some people that look into our game and that have been successful at doing that. Every individual is going to look at the game differently, and that's okay. I think what the biggest thing is it's obviously whatever that decision was, or whatever they've been up against, they're gonna have to. It spurs you on, so uses that for your little resilience piece, or do you know what I mean? Whatever. I'm sure that was the case with Christian. Or maybe it wasn't, and he's just like, you know what, I want this to happen so much that no matter what, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. He hasn't probably thought about it yet, which you can do as well. again, being so young, that's probably how it's happened. But in terms of people see what they want to see sometimes, and if that's not what, you're not going to be for everybody, and you're not going to be for every environment, but that's okay. There might be another environment out there for you, but you've got to be prepared to sacrifice to get to that point. And that's probably what's been happening. It's been happening a lot for Australian football in terms of Australian footballers playing overseas and stuff. You have to sacrifice in order to get over. Leave our lovely country, leave everyone that's there, leave the great weather. But if you got your mindset on something, then you have to try and do it.
Make the best of it. Absolutely. And considering you weren't a flair player by the stretch of imagination. Sorry, that was not a dig whatsoever. I'm getting to it though. But you had other qualities that stuck out. What was it that you think made you capture the imagination of scouts?
Probably just say overall my consistency in trying to do everything right I possibly could. Again, not always getting it right or in different circumstances, but it's just that consistency in performing, consistency in competing. Like I said, putting yourself out there, putting your body on the line every single time you go out on the pitch. And that's part of it. And then along the way, helping your other teammates out. Communication is a massive thing in the game and in the industry, and being able to help teammates out on the pitch, I found, really, really helpful for my own game. So if I was able to help people out from that side of things, then I knew I could sort of still sort out my own game as well.
So right, and maybe I've just had a howler then. I'm just trying to recover from.
Nah, you're all right, mate. It's all right.
But
it's gone, mate. I'm not playing anymore. You're fine. If I was still playing, then potentially, you're all right.
You would have me through the brick
You're
wall,
all right,
I think.
The camera might be off. Nah, you're okay, mate. It's all good.
Oh, no. But as we are a Testicular Cancer Foundation, what would you say is or was your ballsiest moment?
I don't know. I'm a bit on the spot here. I remember playing when I went to Turkey, I played my parent club. I was on loan for a season and I scored 2 goals against them. And it was obviously the manager at the time who was at that club. He sort of wasn't having me in his plan, so I had to go and get seek this loan move in order to gain exposure for the World Cup and get a bit of a consistent run of games. And I remember playing in that game and I was like, yeah, I scored 2 goals. We ended up winning. We done the double on them. And I just thought, what a strange sort of feeling. Couldn't really celebrate, didn't want to celebrate. And it was just like, I had mates in the other team because I'd only been there for 6 months, but had mates in the other team and other players in the other team. And I just remember thinking, I wouldn't say it's ballsy, but more just so like strange.
There's your attacking flair right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you allowed back in Turkey? I'm recovering slowly.
Yeah. No, listen, it was fine. I went back to that club the following season anyway and wasn't allowed to leave on loan by coincidence. So, it was what it was. It was, again, learning, as they say, and yeah.
What was the leap from Turkey to the championship like?
I think it was, probably having missed sort of the pre-season that first year was a big learning curve for me. Needing to get an understanding of actually how prepared you need to get yourself in order to be able to go Saturday, Tuesday all the time. So I learned I was managed well in terms of not playing every single game but then I picked up an injury towards the back end of the season and just remembered saying to myself that whatever happens, I've got to try and get myself ready and then hit the ground running from the start. And sort of that's what happened. Obviously, you go away with the national team in the off season, you play your qualifiers and then have your little break and then you're in with the team. And so it was just getting that preparation. And I think that year we ended up getting promoted, but it was the best learning for me having gone through that previous season.
Yeah. How is that, though, balancing Socceroos commitments when you're traveling halfway around the world and also your competing interests with your parent club? How do you manage all of these different elements?
Um, you just get on with it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah.
You keep yourself in the best possible condition that you can. You prepare, you recover, you try and do all the right things in order to make you available for both. I know the biggest factor is the travel when you're going abroad and playing for your national team, but you never really got questioned with me. So everyone was aware of what my intentions were and didn't really have any resistance, if I'm honest. So whether that was down to me or not, but yeah, I just was allowed to sort of get on with it and trusted that I'd get myself back in sort of ready to go again.
You always put a shift in. There's probably,
Well, yeah, I tried to as best as I could, that's for sure, yeah.
yeah. I'm just imagining because I remember when you first went to Palace and Dougie Freeman signed you, and you didn't even do a pre-season. How is it trying to manage a 44 game season plus cup competitions, and you haven't done even a pre-season?
Well, that was the learning, I think, for me. It was, managed through training sessions and games. We had a good cup run as well that year. We made the semis of what now is the Carabao Cup. And it was just like, had to sort of manage and figure that out. And that's probably down to the coaching, the staff. And that's something that, very, very appreciate. The lads that were there, learning off them, seeing what they were doing, how they were doing it, and again, being prepared to learn and understand of actually, this is the reasoning why we're doing this and this is why. And so you have to have that open-mindedness in order to hopefully gain get what you want to get out of it.
Do you think that's what you would say is what got you to where you are now, because you've been so open to learn?
Yeah, you have to be. I think you can't be sat here and thinking that you know everything.
Yeah.
I think it's that willingness to improve more and not setting a limit on what that looks like. It was always about reaching the highest possible level you could and staying there for as long as you could. So, I was fortunate enough to do that for many years and thankful that I was given the opportunity. So, yeah, having that as a way of thinking, I suppose, helped me with that.
What is it like playing in an FA Cup final? Oh, it gives you a bit of chills now thinking about it. All these big cup finals that you've played in.
Yeah, listen, it's
Wembley.
It was
FA Cup final. I'm sure you grew up with the FA Cup.
It was one of the only games I think you used to get live when we were. It was one of the big ones that everyone used to watch and stay up for. How do you describe it? I think the overriding feeling is obviously proud and pride, but there's a big part of me that wishes we went all the way, and we're probably looking back on it, we had our opportunities to do that, and it was probably teed up for that, but we didn't get the job done. So
Wasn't meant to be, unfortunately, for you. But considering all these experiences that you've had during your club career, how has that helped most now you're working as a lone player manager?
Yeah, listen, I'm doing the loan stuff, the loan player development stuff, and I'm working with some of the age groups as well, like the academy, the 16s and above, 15, 16s and above, doing some bits on the grass with them and helping those players along their journey. It's been good. I think it's been good going out and seeing the environments and being around those environments, seeing what the players are actually going through and providing any support that you can, really. Getting a little bit of an insight in what they're actually feeling, experiencing, and every single one's going to be different, and every single one has been different. So it's trying to provide some of that insight into how they might be dealing with things and how they might be, coping, not coping, whatever it is, whatever strategies you might need to use and implement through your own experiences in order to make that as successful as it can be. And that doesn't necessarily just mean on the pitch. A lot of these boys are moving away from home for the first time and into a first team environment for the first time. So it's given him that little bit of a bridge to help with that.
What is the whirling emotion of going on loan? Is it different for every player? Is there excitement, or is there a bit of dread, or?
I think there's a bit of everything. It's probably a bit of uncertainty, but I think the sooner you sort of get to grips with what's actually happening, and if you can help with that process of what that's going to look like, then, you know, being as informed as you can sometimes helps with that. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay as well. But you've got to, like I said, your responsibility then is to play for that loan club and be immersed in that, and that's one of the things that we try and say to the lads is you've got to be doing everything you possibly can to get the most out of it, enjoy the environment, lap it up. Again, we are watching you from afar, but we want you to give it an absolute, you're all into that environment for those 6 months, one season, whatever it's got to be.
That would probably be the best part, finishing your football career, just being immersed in the experience of trying to help young players fulfill their goals and aspirations.
Yeah, it's not only, you're giving them a little insight. I suppose they obviously have to go through those experiences themselves. I think that's one of the biggest things, but if you can sort of help maybe with some of that'd be great. It's not only young ones, you've got some experienced boys as well, that need a bit of advice or an understanding of something, then that's part of what you got to do, and that's okay. You're there to help. You want the players to succeed. You can see what success brings, and you get people talking about you. You get a team of people talking about individuals that are involved with your football club, and it makes you happy, makes you proud.
Mm-hmm. Even thinking now, you must be so proud of what you've done. But how do you think how'd you have that thought when you finished and you put the curtain call? Was it harder saying goodbye in the media, or was it harder writing the Instagram post?
No, I don't think it was. The Instagram post was the Instagram post.
It was emotional.
The Instagram post
It was beautiful.
It was the way that I decided to do it, and I had my family sat with me and we spoke about it, and they're the conversations. I spoke to my parents and thanked them for everything they did for me along that journey, and that's what I'm always grateful for. People that were there for that whole journey, and along the way, and as it was written, and that's the conclusion you came to. That's sort of sums it up, really.
It's been a special journey. And what would you love people to have a takeout message for people to be open about their men's health issues and testicular cancer? What would be your advice?
I think it's just having the awareness, having the understanding. It's out there, having the awareness. I think the initiative that Tracy and everyone get people to do on the first of the month, checking and being aware of that, being comfortable doing that is part of how it needs to be seen and portrayed, and get yourself a bit of advice on it if you need it. Get yourself educated, because these things have been out there for a very, very long time. It's just, I think, with the fact that we have got a social media presence now, and there are stories out there and we are hearing about it, and I think that is important, just as important, and that's key to allowing us at the charity to spread that message.
And so important. And even with you now, are you on high alert about your health?
You have to
because
be,
of being a charity, being a patron.
I think you have to be, no matter what. I think everybody should be looking out for their health all the time. It's we only get one life, and that's, we know how precious it is. We have to take ourselves through sometimes an experience like we have had with Dylan, in order to, some people have had to go through that to experience that. And that's not the way it is. It should be a thing of, right, we've got to look after ourselves. We've got to look after each other first and foremost. And that's something that I think if we can spread that message as much as we can, then I think we're on a good thing.
Have you found people are pretty open to speak with you about anything because you were a leader, or What, is that tied in, or is that just the makeup of who you are?
Yeah, listen, I think throughout any journey or I think in life in general, it's how you present yourself, what are your values, what do you see, and it's how you see things. And if people have a willingness to go and do that with you and say that to you, then you have to. I wouldn't say it's not an open mind, but you've got to be understanding of people. You got to have that empathy. I know that's not always the case with people, but I know myself. It's there, and I understand. I've been on a journey with football and life that's taken me all across everywhere and experienced different things. But again, if someone's got something important to tell me, then I need to listen and I need to hear and provide a bit of advice, awareness, understanding potentially if that's out there and if that's what's needed for that time in that moment.
Mm-hmm. And we're coming towards the back end, but if you were 24, what do you wish you knew?
24, wow. Don't know.
It's not that long ago.
No. I don't know. What do I wish I knew?
Yeah,
don't know.
From all these experiences.
I don't know. It'll be, I don't know, I don't say it's, what do I?
Because I just remember when you were at the 2010 World Cup and you were going through so much, you said you were pretty wet behind the ears. What sort of experience?
You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out just with who you are. You'll figure it out along the way. You won't do it on your own, but you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what needs to happen next, where the path needs to take you, what you need to be doing, how you need to be doing it. And yeah, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out at 24 to allow you to get to that point where you got to and continue to move forward.
Well, we've just gone past Stepney Green and we're on the final stretch. We've just touched down at Mile Road and it's been an incredible journey you sharing with me today. Thanks so much, Mile.
That's all right, no problem, my pleasure. I'm happy to do it.
It's been incredible.
No worries.
Hope we can speak again.
Let's see.
Thanks so much, Mile.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
It's okay.